Hey everybody, happy Monday. I am Stacy. I'm the owner and artist of New Creations by Stacy. I'm a Dixie Belle Elite retailer here in Ardmore, Alabama at the Rustic Willow. And then I also still have my location in Madison as well. So I'm just gonna make sure I'm live really quick here and that we're popping up. Dixie Belle should be on with us tonight as well to help answer any questions. And I do see we're live. So as you guys are jumping on, just say, hey, where you're watching from, what you're working on tonight. Let me turn this down. I've got a little bit of a delay. Oh, hey, Wanda, how are you? Oh, wow. Hey, Deanne from Western Australia. Good morning. So to get started tonight, while you guys are coming on, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about what we're going to do and the information I have in the description as well. So this piece we actually worked on last week, and I'll go over what we did. But I do have a product list that we're going to be using tonight in the description, as well as I have my link so you can like and follow my page, please. I also have my affiliate link so you can find your local retailer. If you are interested in any of the products, you can also order through my affiliate link if you want to order online. And of course, if you're a retailer on tonight, please post your store, post where you're located at. I will go on and like and follow you after, and of course answer any questions or comments as well after the live. But also so anybody else who's watching can potentially find your store. So I see several people. Oh, hey, Amber, how are you? I see everybody jumping on. Oh, thanks, Deanne. Oh, hey, Judy from North Carolina. All right, so once I get started too, I do sometimes miss comments and questions just because I kind of get lost in what I'm doing. But for this piece, and like I said, we worked on it live last week, so there is a full color list there as well. But I started off, cleaned it with White Lightning, just this little powder stuff. 2 tablespoons, a gallon of water. It's a TSP-based solution. It'll degloss it, remove grease, grime, all that stuff. Make sure your piece is ready for paint. I then rinsed it with water. You don't want to leave any of this residue on here. And just to tell you guys, I know a lot of people don't use this and they clean with other products. There is nothing less expensive than this White Lightning, and it's made for cleaning pieces before you paint them. So it's the right cleaner. But it's also, even if you buy this at Lowe's and like I think it's a 64-ounce bottle or something like that, that's only half a gallon. This goes forever, and that is more expensive than just one little jar of this. So White Lightning, definitely. So after the White Lightning, I did a scuff sand on it. The top, I went ahead and slick stick just because I was kind of on the fence. The original finish was a little bit different. So I just wanted to be extra careful because the top gets so much use as well. So I did slick stick the top. And then after that, we painted it live, so you can go back and watch that. I also have it posted in the timeline on my page, so you can find it easy. So that's it. That's where we're at now. I did also go ahead and add a Would You Bend piece. So between last week and this week, I did go ahead and do kind of a streaked base coat finish. And I did that in drop cloth, sandbar, and, what did I use? Dried sage. I used some dried sage on the bottom too, so that was what I used to kind of bring it together a little bit. And then a couple of hours ago, so I was going to do a faux wood grain finish. A couple hours ago, I decided I wanted to do a plank finish on it, which, by the way, I've never actually done, but we're going to do it tonight. And then we're also going to come and, so last week we voted on which transfer to use, and it was between Sunflowers and the Vintage Floral Transfer. And this transfer won, but only by 2 votes. It was super close. Amber voted 3 times, though, so we could have tied it up if I counted all of those. Sorry, Amber, I just counted 1. Hey, so we'll go ahead and get started. On the top here, I'm going to bring you guys closer in so you can see pretty well. And I've measured everything out So I'm not sure. I used a watercolor pencil. But I'm not sure I'm not sure that's really going to show up on the camera. And I did this because, so this is just a sample board. Don't pay it any attention, color-wise or anything else. But it's not going to look anything like this, don't worry. But these are the colors that we're going to use right here. This isn't even the same base color or anything else. But that kind of gives you an idea of where we're going. So I wanted my planks to be 4 inches because I wanted them to be the same width as the wood graining tool that we're going to be using. And this is from Dixie Belle. So it comes with this handle, and then it comes with a wide applicator as well as a smaller applicator if you're doing a smaller streak there. And then you also have this texturing tool, so it's got like 3 different sides, so you can add texture or whatever else that you want to. This is actually really great for making like a linen finish too. So we're going to start with this plank here, and I'm going to go ahead and tape off the other planks. After we do this, we're going to let it dry. I'm going to come down, do some transfers, and then we'll come back up and do the other planks. So I measured it out. I also even labeled it, if you can see that, with what colors I wanted where, just because I know, especially on a live, I will get caught up. And oh, thanks, Amber. All right, so I knew on a live that I would especially get caught up, so I wanted to label the colors so I didn't actually mess that up. So my biggest thing is I just want to make sure my lines are straight here. And I'm using frog tape just because it's a clean release tape. And I want these lines to be very crisp. I will come back in with coffee bean though, which I won't be able to do tonight though, and outline the different boards so it looks more authentic. So we have to work in alternating, what we want to be alternating boards. And like I said, I drew this out earlier and measured, so all I'm doing here is mapping or putting the tape down along my lines. And we're going to do 3 different planks in 3 different colors just to start off with. And oh, hey, Pam. So the colors on the bottom, I did a live last week. So I do have a full color list, but the colors on the bottom, I did a lot of mixing. But I used collard greens mixed with antebellum. And then I used a little bit of the Gulf as well as dried sage, and then a little bit of Colonel mustard. So originally I was actually going to do this in pine cone, just a regular faux finish top, no planks. Sorry. When you're laying tape, you just want to make sure that you're right along the line. Sometimes it can lay crooked if you're just popping it down. All right, so I was going to originally do the top in a little bit of pine cone, so I added that to the front as well just to give it some aging and kind of bring it together. And then, like I said, at the last minute, I decided to do planks in a different color. But I will be putting some metallic on here with the gilding wax, the very last thing, give it a little more aging with like the bronze, and haven't 100% decided if I want to use copper or gold, but I'll kind of go along and see here. So we're going to start with this panel up here, and I'm going to do variations of Gravel Road and French Linen. So let me go ahead and get these colors out. I'm not exactly sure how much I need here because I'm going to do some mixing up, but so we're just going to give it a little bit. And I'm going to be using a premium chip brush to apply the paint. And I want to have some nice, more crisp wood grain. I've actually pre-sold a lot. I just placed another order for the fall colors. So I have very few right now that aren't already spoken for when Wednesday comes. So if you just send me a message, Wanda's local here. If you send me a message, I can go ahead and reserve some for you if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and wet my brush down. And by the way, the new fall colors, oh my gosh, I love the juniper and the pumpkin spice, the cashmere. I even kind of like the Merlot, and I'm not really a red person. So I want my paint to go on and stay a little bit workable. So that's why I misted down my brushes. I don't want to put it on my piece because if you use a lot of water, you can run the risk of getting this look right here where it's a little bit more washed out. And sometimes I do that, but my sample board, I was testing it over silk. I wanted to see how it went with silk. So this isn't silk, so that really doesn't apply down there, but the same thing will happen if you use too much water. So you want to work quickly whenever you're doing this. If you're doing something like a large dining room table or something like that, you also want to, probably break it down into sections. So this is going to be my most dark board, and I'm going to go with Gravel Road. And I'm okay with leaving this a little streaky as well, because this is supposed to be your wood grain that you're seeing here. So I just want to make sure I get this all on, and I actually might have misted my brush a little bit more than I intended to. But it should be fine. Also, this is never my last step on a faux finish. I will always glaze it. I think it makes it look more authentic. Sometimes I'll come in and dry brush as well. So when you're using this, you want your paint still wet so that you can manipulate it. When you pull straight back without rocking, it's going to create your lines. Once you start rocking, that's what creates your knots. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to start rocking my tool. And you want to put a lot of pressure on it. I didn't quite get as much pressure over here. I don't really like to go over it again, but one thing I can do is use this small one, and I can create kind of some different little designs here and lines. So all I'm trying to do is line this out a little bit. I can also come back in and add some dabbing. So like let's say up here where I kind of went over, I can dab that a little bit together. Just to let you know too, I did protect over this. So it does have a coat of flat on here. So like if I hated this, I could immediately wipe this off while it's still wet. I can do it again. That's what that protectant gives me. If you do not protect in between, you can still make this look. You're not going to be able to wipe it back, but your paint is going to grab this top a little bit more, and you're not going to have as much ability to work it into the grain. So one thing you want to do too is your wood grain brush. See how, or not brush, but tool. See how the paint builds up? If you continue to go without kind of rinsing or washing that off, your wood grain will be less and less defined. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe, and I'm going to kind of just clean some of that excess paint off. So what I'm going to do here too is I want to go ahead and dab on here. And in some places I'll go ahead and streak it, because you can't really, just go straight and do the same thing. Hopefully my head's not in the way. Just just wiping some of the paint off my brush here. I'm going to dab. And keep in mind, I'm going to come back and glaze. So in these recessed areas, those are going to end up really dark, even though you're not seeing this in there now. I'm going to take my baby wipe, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to start dabbing it. And I'm also going to take this tool right here, and I'm going to try to create, just here and there, a few lines to make it look like it is still part of the wood. So dab in a few spots. Again, I'm not worried about getting in those details just yet. I will come back and work on these edges as I go, because the edges are definitely a build-up process. To get them to look really, actually natural. I'm going to dab a little bit back here. The more you build this up, the better and more authentic it will look. And that's why I always come back and glaze. Sometimes I do a little dry brushing over it. It just depends on what it calls for. So I am going to go ahead and take off. I want to do this while the paint's still wet. You don't have to. But sometimes if you have a thick overlap in the paint, and you start pulling this off, you can end up with like a little chip or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this plank off. And then we are going to move on to our next plank. This plank I'm mainly going to do in French linen, but I do want to add a little bit. That's this lighter color here. Almost looks like it has a little bit of a gray base to it. And then also with the gravel road, which is a gray, but more like with a brown base kind of. It differs a little bit from Hurricane in that way. All right, so this week's live on Dixie Belle was a custom mix of paints. Yep, I was sorry. I was just reading. I thought that was a question. All right, so I'm going to go ahead here. And for the most part, I'm going to go on with French linen. I did, by the way, use the same brush. But I also want to streak a little bit, because this is really light, and my base is relatively light. So I want to streak. I don't want it to blend in too much. I want to streak a little bit of this gravel road in here. So I'm going a little bit lighter. It's wet. It's creating some nice, like what you would see with some wood grain. And then we're going to come back through with the tool. Same thing. So straight gives you the lines. You start to rock it. And I actually wasn't pressing down hard enough. You do want some extra pressure on here. So I didn't have enough pressure. I'm going to come back and do this right up to this point. So now I've just got some nice wood grain lines in here. All right, and then I'm going to come over onto the side here and do the same dabbing thing. I missed that little corner. Dab that on a little bit, and then we're going to use the baby wipe. I like to actually use the dirty baby wipes because that starts to build up color on it, and it will actually add some in as it's taking it off to reveal that little, taking it off a little bit to reveal that under color, that base color. So now let's go ahead and we're going to remove this tape. Trying to get it without grabbing my paint here. There we go. So I used a watercolor pencil too to draw out the lines. So as I use water-based products on here, those are going to disappear. And if I still have some, like you can see a little bit of an edge here. If I still have some, once I do the protectant, the water-based protectant, we'll go ahead and get rid of the rest of those. So here we go with the French linen. So now we're going to go to the back. So at this point, I'm doing a very thin section. I could go ahead and switch to the thin tool, but I want this to look like a half a piece of wood. So I'm going to leave it this way. So for this one, I'm doing about 4 different color variations here. I want this to kind of be mostly gravel road, but I'm going to grab some of this French linen and I'm going to actually mix these two together just to make like an intermediate shade here between these. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint that on. I dabbed that because I do have some original texture in here and I'm trying to work that into the grain. So now I'm going to actually take my finger so I can keep the pressure on the left side since this is a smaller one. Pull it straight back and start to rock it. The more pressure, the more grain you're going to get. So this board has a lot of grain in it right here. So they're all kind of a little bit different. Unfortunately, I did not wipe off, but that's okay because in this one here, I didn't have a lot of pressure, so I didn't get a lot of paint buildup. But you see, I put a lot of pressure on this one, a lot of paint stuck in here. So let's go ahead and clean that off. I'm going to dry this a little bit with the heat gun, and then we're going to start working with the transfer. Hopefully I have time. I want to get some planks that are next to each other done. Really, I shouldn't put tape on it that quickly, but I think I can make it work. But that's it. That's how I'm creating this plank look. And also, just want to catch this side here a little bit. I'm not worried about the sides because, like I said, I'll go back and do some layering work on those to get them to look more authentic. I'm gonna brush a little bit over here actually. Same thing, just working it in here and there. It all just comes together as you go. But I'll do that a little bit later. I want to see if we can get this all done first. All right, so now we have our next plank. So we've got 3. So we're gonna go ahead and drop down. I've got paint all over me. Like nothing's new there though. All right, so I'm gonna move you guys back a little bit so you can see this again. I know if you watched last week, I literally had to put this piece of furniture away so I didn't repaint it a color other than green. I love everyone's green pieces, but I don't know why I have such a hard time with it. I just never like my own as much. So by the way, this is where I was talking about the pine cone I had put on here to kind of age it where the hardware and everything was. I'm going to end up covering that up a little bit. And I'll come back and redo this area too. I wasn't really looking at it very well, and I can see where I completely missed this, and it's extremely light. So we are now going to work with the new Vintage Floral Transfer, which is awesome. And I lost the comments a little bit ago, so I'm just going to see if I can pop those back up. Shouldn't take but a minute. So like I said, I'm a little delayed, but she put the flat top coat. Yes, definitely. I almost always top coat because the chalk mineral paint is very porous and it just grabs a hold of whatever it can. That's sometimes why you get like streaking with like a satin or a glossy if you don't put like a flat under it, or there's some other options too. But these are the transfer sheets. It comes with a little instruction tips and tricks guide. And then it also comes with a little wooden stick to use as an applicator. And then there's 4 sheets. And we're not going to be using these, but look at those colors. They are gorgeous and so vibrant. The overwhelming consensus was, though, with the vote for black and white. So that's another sheet, and then I'll show you this last sheet right quick. I mean, these flowers are beautiful. One thing I like, these two transfers are from a different manufacturer, so there are a few different tips and tricks than some of the other Dixie Belle transfers. And this is just me, my thoughts. I think that some of these, when you're layering, they're a little bit more opaque. And again, that's just my take from using them. And it could just be me. It's very, very small. All right, so we are going to use this gorgeous black and white piece. I did cut it out. I cut the other one up because I'm going to customize it a little bit. But this one, I want to go ahead and put down here on the drawer. And it should just fit. And I love it because with the design, it actually goes right around. Let me see, give it up a little bit. So these have a little bit more glue than the other transfers, which are nice because if I didn't like my placement here, I could easily pull this right back off. It does not stick initially. Oh, thanks, Jean. But it's not like the other ones where they release so easily from the plastic that you can't manipulate them and work with them first. So that's a really nice thing about this. I'm going to go ahead and just rub it down a little bit. You want to make sure, I'm putting it on a textured surface, and this is a relatively small piece, but you usually want to start at a side and work your way over to the other side. But you don't want to come in from this side and then go in from this side because you want to avoid like any air bubbles or anything like that. I'm also, by the way, going to black wax this too, but I don't think I'll get to that tonight. So I'm going to add a little bit of heat. I've got my heat gun out. I was meant to put it on the top and didn't, but we will in a sec. I'm going to use my hair dryer though so that I can release some of this glue. I don't want to use the heat gun though because I don't want it to get too hot. So the principle of this is, you know, you remove veneer and stuff like that with the heat gun, with heat. With these, you can release some of that glue. I'm going to rub it on one more time right quick. But you can release some of that glue. And this will make it easier for me to pull back the plastic when I get ready to. You can put this on without doing that, but it's a little bit, I've found that it's a little bit more elbow work for me. So another thing here, I am really close to the edge. And with this wood stick, if you go off the edge, you can actually make a mark on your paint and stuff like that. So, oh, and I should have gotten one out, but the clear plastic that you pull off, you can actually put over here and use it to rub it down. And I can't see through this, but I know kind of where I'm rubbing at. That's why this isn't ideal, but you use what you have on hand at the time. All right. So now that I've rubbed that all on, I'm going to rub and pull back at the same time. And this is on texture, so it is a little bit more tricky because you have to get that pressure into every little area. You don't want any air bubbles under your transfer because any point that is like a weak space that moisture could potentially get in or that air is under, eventually you can have an issue with that part pulling up or peeling off from your piece. So you want to make sure that you watch for that. And there are ways to fix those little air pockets if you get them. I think one week I had some and I ended up using a pencil, but you know, like a safety pin or, you know, like a sewing pin are perfect. So all of this texture I put on last week with the sea spray is, I think I'm going to put a little bit more heat on here. It's making it more difficult to pull this back. Yeah, I'm going to put a little bit more heat on here. Okay, and then we're going to come back and we're just going to keep pulling back. Well, this might be the only one we get on at the rate I'm going here before we go back to the top. But at least we'll see what it looks like. I'm going to tell you also, normally I always put a transfer on directly onto the paint. Because again, that paint is very porous. Everything sticks to the paint very well. I wanted to do something else on here, so I actually put a flat protectant on here, but it's been drying for a little bit, so you can put the transfer on. It's recommended over paint. You can put it on over a protectant, but sometimes it is a little slower going. So I'm just rubbing as I'm peeling back. If I see that a place hasn't stuck, I just kind of lay it back down and go over that spot again. Oh wow, this is gorgeous under here. Just move it back. Hey Jeanette, hey Vicki. Up a little bit faster now. One of the issues I'm having too with the pressure is my piece is rolling back and I can't hold on to it. So let me see if I put my leg over here. Yeah, that's definitely helping with keeping this still. Allows me to put a little more pressure on here. And you just want to keep watching it, pull back slowly. Now, one thing you'll see me do sometimes with some of the other transfers, which I do not do with these new ones, I'm just going to heat this up a little bit to help that release. But hey, Pam, so one of the things that you'll see me do with the other ones is I will try to catch like a little bubble and pull it back so I can get a large section released. Because of the extra glue on these, I have not done that. I've been a little bit more careful. And this is just my thoughts, by the way, too. This is not anything from Dixie Belle or anywhere else. I think sometimes that the more opaque or some transfers, there's a slightly different, oh wow, that's gorgeous on here. Sometimes I think that the more opaque transfers do typically sometimes take a little bit more to release. And when I say opaque, none of the transfers are translucent, But I love these new transfers. They're so vibrant with the colors, and the layering with them, they're more opaque. You don't see anything underneath. None of them are translucent, but sometimes you can see like outlines and stuff like that. This transfer also has a lot of detail here. A lot more contact points. When you have one solid piece with less contact points, it goes on quite a bit faster as well. So anytime you have lettering, usually that's a little bit slower. So here's what it looks like so far. Let me bring you guys down so you can see this better. I kind of feel like you're really far away. I feel like I'm gonna run out of time and not be able to do these top planks, but I can always jump on my page right after this and get that going. Let's see. Just want to give you guys a little better view. It might be because I need glasses too, but there's a glare if I wear them on here. So when I look up at the screen, I think you can't see anything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more heat on this. This transfer is the Vintage Floral Transfer. It's the black and white portion of it. I mean, I love the details. This is part of it. I've cut this one up because I was redesigning it over here. Oh, I see what I've got going on now. I got to hold my piece in place. And I'm kind of coming from different directions here. It's all pressed down, so this going in different, pulling it back in different directions won't cause me to really get any air bubbles or anything like that. It's just when you initially press it down. I've still got this big flower to come off over here. And like I said, with the textured surfaces too, I'll bring you guys in for a close-up once I get this released though. So what transfers have you guys used? I've got a beautiful piece that I need to stage right now. It's completely done with the cherry blossom transfer. Gorgeous. Now I put that on silk, very smooth surface, no texture. I did that on a live on the silk page and went on very quick and smooth. If you have an oak piece too with a lot of texture, like a very old oak piece, it is the same thing with getting into all these grooves. All right, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit more heat here. This is going to be well worth it though. All right, so that is releasing much easier. Get these leaves off and then we'll heat up that flower there. And I probably should leave this heat on a little bit longer. But I'm really good about bubbling my paint because I leave my heat gun in the same place for too long. So I'm a little leery about using too much heat. All right, perfect. So let me just get this last leaf section and we will have this flower on so you guys can see how this turns out. All right, perfect. Okay, didn't even see you on here. Julie's local too. So we're just gonna heat this up. Actually, I'm loving this pine cone under here too, where I aged it. Now you can distress these transfers. You can paint over these transfers. There's a lot you can do with them. You can layer them. So let's go ahead and get this part off. Probably should have left that heat on a little bit longer. There we go. So this is what I was kind of talking about. This flower is coming off a little bit easier because it's not as intricately detailed as all the stems and leaves and the smaller flowers. It doesn't have as many, I don't know what quite the right word is, but it doesn't have as many edges inside the flower. The flower is one solid piece. Trying to get a good handle on this up here. There we go. So we've almost got it off here. Hopefully. This last little round bit. Now you want to be careful whenever you come to that last little section that needs to pop off. And I usually try to go towards the middle. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and pull it on the edge. But the reason that I do that is because if that very last little piece isn't stuck on well and you pop this off, that will come off with the plastic and then you might have a little repair to do. And if something like that happens, again, you can just paint it in, you can do whatever there. So that's it. We've got this gorgeous transfer on. I'll bring you in closer. All of these colors and texture behind it look phenomenal. So once you have it on, you do want to go ahead and burnish it because especially around the edges, you might have some little pieces, some little spots that aren't completely adhered to your piece. You want to make sure that this is secure so that you don't have any issues later on. You do want to protect over the transfers as well, unless you're putting them on glass. So you want to burnish it, and you can do several different things. Like I could take this piece that I just pulled off, and I could, whoops, wrong side. I could go over it like this. That's not my favorite method, but I'll use it if I forgot to get something out. I like the finishing pads by Dixie Belle. You can just rub this over. Any edges, the little stringy things on the edges, comes right off with the finishing pad. Just want to make sure it's stuck down everywhere. Burnish it really well. When you go to protect, you don't want any moisture from your protection getting underneath of it. Transfers do not like moisture. You want to also make sure your paint is fully dry before you put it on. I personally like to wait 24 hours, but I have done it faster than that. Perfect. So that's all burnished on, very minimal halo, and that'll continue to minimize. Usually once I protect it, I find that it minimizes. Hey, Brenda from Alabama. Oh, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop you. Actually, I'm going to bring you in really close with the camera just so you can see the texture that we created. Last week. So this is the transfer. Look how gorgeous that looks. And that little pine cone spot in there. Let's see if you can see some of that texture. Yeah, I think so. Hopefully. Sometimes it's really hard to see, but you can also see all those little dry layers that we did. As far as the top goes, I don't want to make anyone sick from moving this around, but you can kind of see how that wood grain looks so far. Again, I always go over these with glaze because I feel like it needs a little more work to look completely natural. I will go ahead and jump on my page right quick. Let me see. Actually, I think I need to wait a little while. I tell you what, I will jump on my page tomorrow, and I will go through and do some of these other panels so you can kind of see how that comes together. But I am out of time, so if you like this video, if you think someone could use it, please share it on Facebook, as well as just follow me on my page. You can see the final piece as well and how this top finally turns out. But thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you, Dixie Belle, for everything. And if I miss any questions or comments, I will go back and get those right after the live. But thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye.